We have got a lot to go over. In our last video, we saw that we were trying to add a second aircraft into our airline. We were just going with the simple Cabri G2 to see if we could earn profits without necessarily flying. I just want to increase our profit margins, and wouldn't you know it, the notification says no. I decided to sell that second aircraft because there was no way to go into a area of operation with a second pilot. There was no information given to hire another pilot. So what we're going to decide to do is carry on anyway. What we're going to do is actually take this in a different route. Let's try to earn more and more profits with our companies. We're not going to do this any other way other than to increase our specializations. We are here to get our airline transport pilot's license. This is what we want to do. However, I have said this in the past, and I will say it again. What we need to do is prior to launch, I will return to our main menu and go into a free flight to make sure that our aircraft is ready for this flight. Is this aircraft going to be a trimmable platform? Let's go to somewhere we've been before and just start a flight. I will let this take its time. We're going to go ahead and hop right in at about now. So, we've learned about trims in another video, but what we want to do with this video is actually give you more of a precise view of what it looks like when a helicopter is in fact properly trimmed. Again, reminder, we are in a free flight. We're loading into an area of the planet where we are based, but we are not doing this in a career mode. We are just going to do this for almost a rehearsal. I want to take off with this aircraft and make sure that this is something that I can fly using minimal control inputs. I don't want to worry about my ATC and fractions at this point. I want to worry about whether or not this airframe can be trimmed. How can I prove to you that trim settings and key bindings do in fact work with helicopters in 2024? Well, I think the only way to really do that is to add a secondary view. What we're seeing here is my hand on my controller, okay? We can see that I'm in a little bit of an orbit to the right, and I am going to take my hands off of the controller. And I want to see if I can get this back into a flyable. I need to put my hands back on the controller so we don't go out of control. However, I'm going to start to include a little bit of trim while I do this. I'm going to get the camera back behind the chopper, and I'm going to slowly, with my right thumb on that top hat switch, bounce this chopper into trim. If it's not reacting, I'm going to press and hold the trim to see if it works. Now, I have taken the time prior to this flight to make sure that my key bindings are what they are. I'm hands off. You can see now that I'm gonna operate this with one hand. I am only flying the Ericsson with trim. I can get this aircraft trimmed. It may take a press and hold. The reaction time is going to be different with every airframe you fly. All of them. It's going to be different for every aircraft. However, now, even though my aircraft has brought its chocks with for the flight, I know that this aircraft can be flown. Again, I got both hands in the frame. I'm just going to move backwards on that hat switch until I'm in a nose-up configuration. I'm going to move forward in a nose-down configuration, only using the hat switch. And this is taking a press and hold, not beep, You can do beep. You can even go left and right with the settings that I've described in prior videos, and we can go into it a little bit more if we need to. But I can control this hands-free. The only thing I've got on the controls right now are my pedals. I want to be able to go through this process before I actually get into my endorsement with this aircraft, so I know that I can properly control this airframe in Microsoft's configuration. Again, I am barely touching the controls. I am going to nose forward. It takes a long press and hold. If I want to nose up, I'm going to long press and hold on my hat switch towards the back. She's going to slowly bring it forward. This is the same on every aircraft, but they will all interact in their own special little way. Hands free. I'm going to put a little rudder pedal in there. Hands free. Okay? So now that we know that this is possible, what I want to do is come in and escape out of this, go back to a main menu, and let's go from here. Now let's see what the career mode has to offer with this. But before I do this, I want to verify in my settings that I am controlling. Right here it says change aircraft. It's the Ericsson Incorporated S64F Skycrane. The way my controls are configured right now is specific to this airframe. Here's what we've got. The T16000M is the input that I'm looking at, and I can search by input and come over to my HOTAS and press up, and we have decrease rotor longitudinal trim. I can go to search by input and press down, increase rotor longitudinal trim. Search by input, go to the right, increase rotor lateral trim. Search by input, to the left, decrease rotor lateral trim. The last input I am going to use, you can map this wherever you want, but on my HOTAS, it's just one of the larger buttons on the inside. I will search by input, press the button, and it is a rotor trim reset. And it is all being mapped specifically to change aircraft. Once I got these settings right, I finally dove in and just said apply to all aircraft. I can now fly these hands off. So now we are going to go into a career mode with a brand new helicopter and trims the way we want them set up, and we are going to see if we can take our hands off of the controls and just fly a mission the way they expect us to. But we're going to do it in a certification. We're going to do it in the airline transport pilot license for rotorcraft. Right here. It's going to cost 75 G's. As you can see, I've sold that second G2. I don't want anything to do with it. They are not allowing me to fly secondary missions. It's basically a way to say, oh, you don't have to transport your aircraft from this airfield to another one. We have another airfield a little bit closer. That's how it's set up for at least now. Take the exam, purchase it, 75 G's, drop it like it's hot. I don't care. I need to see if there is more to this simulator. I am not giving up on it. I have faith. It takes quite a while for these to load in. Again, before I started this stream, which is the second for me today, I did clean my cache again. We're starting from a clean slate. Airline, transport, pilot license, rotorcraft certification. Can we use trim? I sincerely hope so. I really, really do. I'm not going to take this camera down during this process. Hopefully this helps. I hope it doesn't impede on the view of what I'm trying to do. I hope I can successfully pull this mission off without a crash to desktop. So far, a lot of what I've seen in this is CTDs. I have never done a pre-flight on this specific chopper before. This should be nothing short of entertaining. At least we get to remove our chocks. So we're going to use our general controls as if we would before, and wouldn't you know it, even though you just saw me remap and make sure that my controls where they were, I'm going to have to come in and use different controls on the keyboard to make these movements happen. And chocks are apparently the only thing on this beast that are required for a pre-flight. Sure thing. Sure thing. Oh my goodness. I don't know what I've gotten myself into. I think we're going to be okay. We're getting a little bit of glitchy movement up front. Right off the bat, I'm not happy with it. I am going to do the Shift C to enter to avoid any further conflict. I'm trying to use my before taxi startup button, and it's not working. Again, it is absolutely frustrating that I have to come in here as many times as I do to reconfigure the settings on my HOTAS. However, I'm going to struggle through. We're going to do it one more time. On the throttle, I want a quick reply. Mapped to this button. It's already coming up with, once again, a conflict. I'm going to come in, toggle landing gear as the conflict. That's not what I want. I want to remove toggle landing gear. I will delete it. Go back. And fine. I'm not going to toggle the landing gear on an Ericsson. One more time. I will resume. Now if I hit the reply button, I am still not getting a response. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. My key bindings, again, even though I have checked these prior to this flight, have all reverted back to something other than what they should be. So in the settings, let's see what we're working with for the controls one more time. Everything that I had set up in what I call my H225 preset has been working perfectly up to this point for every single aircraft that I've done this for. If I go to the 160, there's not a lot of options here. I have selected these two for general controls, helicopter controls, to work for every aircraft. When you have the option to come in and apply to all aircraft, this should have worked. It should have worked. So, T16M1000. We're going to try the quick reply again. You can see that the conflicts are plentiful, and I'm just going to start deleting these. I don't want any of these quick views. And here, once again, it is asking me, even though I have already done so, to enter in a new preset name for the profile. I will oblige. We're deleting things we don't want. I don't want these quick views. I just don't. What I want is a quick reply. There is still a conflict. And we're getting notified and notified and notified that these conflicts are absolutely relentless. It is simply relentless. You have to be vigilant about what these things are doing. You can also see that this action is now set as a control on release. And it is an input repetition. So the more you hold the button, the more the panel is being, or the more the button is actually being read. I don't want to open the communications panel with this, so I will slide this up and delete. I'm going to have to go back since it doesn't retain that information. Quick reply is still here with one more conflict, and I want the rotor trim reset to be somewhere else. I don't want that on button 2. So I will again move that up and delete. We're going to go back. Now we have the quick reply button. Once again, I'm just going to search by input, press the same button where I want quick reply. It's saying wrong device. Throttle. Why are they mapped to more than one device, even though I've done this before? Your guess is as good as mine. No more conflicts exist on that button, though, so we are moving on. Save and back. Resume. Control E to start up the procedure. We're going to do it because how much time do we really want to take for this? I want to make sure that this is something that I control with just my fingertip. Once we get this aircraft in the air, is the trim for this aircraft going to truly function as it should while we take this exam? Once again, here we go. I got to get my camera views back in place. So we're going to go to controls. We're going to go to this, and we're going to say toggle cockpit. And it should be toggle cockpit view. I want that one there. There's a conflict. What's there already? Toggle smart camera. Rinse and repeat. It's not like we haven't done this exact same thing before with every other aircraft, even though I've told the system to save it for every aircraft. Now I want to see if I can't toggle an external view. So we go to toggle external view, and we're going to put that somewhere up here. Of course, conflict. Toggle spray. I am not in a agricultural sprayer, so why would I need that there? We'll delete it. We're going to go back. We're going to save. We're going to resume. We're going to continue. Now I can get into my different views, just happy as can be, waiting for the engines to start up. If you haven't noticed anything about this cockpit, this bad boy right here is a little bit complicated. Tons going on in this cockpit. Have I gotten into this completely? Absolutely not. Requesting taxi clearance, parking brakes, waiting for clearance. I am using shortcuts on this hand over here. We're using my controller to get through those mission steps, those buttons, for whatever reason, have now decided to accept their functionality. I dig what I see. We're moving on. We're going to acknowledge the taxi clearance, and I'm just using those shortcuts that they are asking me for. This is a massive test of trims, and I want to see if I can do it with a simple press of a finger without hands-on and arm wrestling this bad boy into submission. Well, this should be interesting. Engines sound pretty good, I will say that. Starting to get a little bit of a roll there. We've paid money for this. This is our flight for life when it comes to profitability. Yes, this is the path that Microsoft has chosen for us to taxi through. We need to fit between two light poles that are just barely big enough for our rotor arc. Again, flying these things outside, for me, is uncomfortable. I do like to do it, though, just for practice, because what we've seen so far is trying to get a hold of the cargo or survivor from the internal mode is extremely difficult. So even while I'm doing these hold shorts and taxis, I am trying to do this from outside. And so far, I am just stick flying this. Once I put the aircraft on the ground, I want to show you what kind of travel I can get out of my sticks, hopefully without crashing. You can see the kind of movement that these controllers can get. I have a lot of movement, but you're going to see that once I have this trimmed out, I should be able to barely move my hand or just use it with only a fingertip. Should. I am in a hover. I'm going to start to beep trim a hover. I need a little bit of input with the hand to get this right. It's coming closer. Every aircraft reacts to trim much differently. Much, much differently. Hands off. It starts to rise up a little bit, so I want to get my hands on there. At this point, I don't care about these performance reviews. I really don't. It says to climb to 600 feet. I have no idea what to expect for this mission. We're doing this live and in real time. The tail on this thing, again, isn't that glitchy tail. With the settings I have in my curves, every aircraft's tail seems to be responding pretty smoothly at this point, even to turbulence. It doesn't feel that bad. We're going to be climbing up to 600. Let's see if we can get inside of the aircraft for just a moment to get up to our altitude. I don't like putting those graphics up over the external view, so we're just going to go inside and see what we can do for just a moment. When we get closer to our objective, I know that we are going to have to move into that exterior view, because even though I have a bubble window over here, this is as far left as I can move. If I move over and look down, that's my view. Ineffective when it comes to hoisting cargo in an Ericsson. I'm trying to use the enter key to acknowledge takeoff via ATC. I'm getting no response. If I do my controls for the ATC, those are also not working. Now it's finally working. I'm getting a little bit too high up in the air. I can see the crosswind end there. I can also see my mission EFB in the upper right side of the video, and I'm just going to try to use that to get to where I need to be. I have not set up in this just yet, even though it should be.